The Holy Gospel according to John.
Glory to you, Lord.
Jesus said, "Very truly I tell you, anyone who does not enter the sheepfold by the gate, but climbs in by another way, is a thief and a bandit. The one who enters by the gate is the shepherd of the sheep. The gatekeeper opens the gate for him, and the sheep hear his voice. He calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. When he has brought out all his own, he goes ahead of them, and the sheep follow him because they know his voice. They will not follow a stranger, but they will run from him because they do not know the voice of a stranger." Jesus used this figure of speech with them, but they did not understand what he was saying to them. So again, Jesus said to them, "Very truly I tell you, I am the gate for the sheep. All who came before me are thieves and bandits, but the sheep did not listen to them. I am the gate. Whoever enters by me will be saved, and will come in and go out and find pasture. The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I came that they may have life and have it abundantly." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, O Christ.
Please be seated. In today's Gospel, Jesus gives us his mission statement. "I came that they may have life and have it abundantly." Those who came before him were thieves and bandits, but Jesus comes to give us not just any life, but life in abundance. Jesus doesn't just offer survival. He wants us to thrive. The life he offers is not just existence, but joy. Frankly, Jesus offers more life than most of us can even imagine. When I spoke on this text 3 years ago, because they come up every 3 years, I told you that I had Googled abundant life, abundant living, abundant life church, and had ended up with about a gazillion hits. Many of these results were about having more money. Even the so-called Christian ones. Prosperity seemed to be how they defined abundant life. But I don't think money is what Jesus is talking about in these verses. For some, abundant life is framed in terms of how we view our quality of life. How would you define abundant life? What for you makes life more than mere survival? More than just existing? I'm sure that all of our answers would be quite different. One thing we need to notice about our reading, and I frankly didn't notice it at first until I did some research yesterday after Synod Assembly on the internet, but one thing we have to notice is that while Jesus does not define abundant life, this text, the reading we heard today, comes right after the healing of the man born blind, which we heard this year during Lent. For that man, abundant life is sight. It's release from dependence. It's freedom and light and new opportunity. How we define abundant life depends on our context. For the blind man, it was sight. For a single parent, it might be companionship, someone to help them in life. For a bullied teen, it might be acceptance and someone to stand up for them and advocate for them. For someone who is dying, it might be dignity and the chance for self-determination. Abundant life looks different in different places and to different people, but it always manifests itself as a response to whatever seeks to rob us of our inheritance of life, purpose, and joy. If we accept this idea that abundant life is contextual and defined by release from whatever is robbing us of God's intentions for us, then this passage invites us To go beyond listening to this promise of abundant life, we must live into it by joining the mission of Jesus to bring abundant life to all of God's children. That means we need to pay attention to what is robbing not just us, but all of God's children of this life. Then we need to stand up with them and for them against those forces so that they might have not just life, but life in abundance. This past week at the Synod Assembly, we heard a lot about abundant life. Now, those were not the words that they used. They were working off of last week's lectionary text most of the way, but they used this one during close of worship. And we might have heard something about abundant life at that time, but Todd and I didn't stay. What we did hear about a lot was organizations and individuals who are in the business of empowering others to live an abundant life. We heard about Lutheran World Relief, breaking down barriers to abundant life all over the world with quilts and school kits and even bars of soap. We heard about Lutheran disaster response, working in our nation and around the world to restore some sense of abundant life after earthquakes, floods, fires, and other catastrophes. One of my favorite of the stories we heard of breaking down barriers to abundant life was about ELCA World Hunger and their work with the people of Porterville, California during these past years of devastating drought. After 5 years of drought, the local river and many of the local wells in the area ran dry. And they had deeper wells needed to be drilled, but it was very expensive, and very few private households could afford it. The Garcia family, we heard about the Garcia family, Tomas and his wife Juana and their children. They spent almost all of the time when they were not working looking for enough water for their family to survive. They needed water to drink, to bathe, to cook, even to be able to flush their toilets. But water was expensive, and the drought had also affected their ability to earn money. Juana is a grape worker and depends on a good harvest for her income. 2 years ago, she said, I would pack nearly 300 boxes of grapes each day. Now there is barely enough to pack 40 boxes. There was no help available for them through government agencies, at least not in the foreseeable future. It could be months and months and months. So the Porterville Area Coordinating Council, which is supported in part by ELCA World Hunger, was able to help them drill a deeper well. Many volunteers on the council, motivated by deep concern for their neighbors' quality of life, spent countless hours helping the Garcias and others who were disabled, elderly, or unable to apply for assistance. Abundant life isn't simply a promise about some distant and eternal future. It's an invitation to discover life right now by extending it to those around us. The church isn't the place where we go to hear about abundant life. It's the place that sends us out to experience and share it as we commit ourselves to the well-being of all God's children and the world God loves so much. So what is abundant life in our community at Atonement? I believe that as disciples of Jesus, we cannot live a truly abundant life unless we are actively involved in breaking down the barriers that keep those around us and around the world from having an abundant life. We're doing some of this. We have a food pantry. We offer people for whom hunger is a barrier to abundant life, help in that way. We also have our distribution of food, of more groceries once a month, where the whole community comes or is invited. And guess what? we also helped the Garcia family dig a deeper well. When we put money in the offering plate each week, most of it stays here at Atonement, but a portion of that money goes to our synod. And the synod, in turn, sends a portion of their money to our church-wide unit in Chicago. They offer support to organizations like ELCA World Hunger, who in turn send that money out into the world, including into our local communities. But helping our neighbors experience abundant life isn't always about money. At Synod Assembly, we also heard about issues that can rob people of this life. We heard a lot this year about racism and how it affects our nation and our church. And we got our credential report at each business session. They told us how many voting members there were, and they broke them down by various things. The number of people of color and those whose primary language is other than English never got above 7%. In a church that has supposedly committed itself to reaching out for ethnic diversity. This is an area where we have to work. We talked about white privilege. I personally am a benefactor of white privilege. If I get stopped for speeding, which fortunately I haven't been for many decades, I don't have to worry that the officer who gets out of his car or off his motorcycle is going to approach my car with his hand already on his weapon, just in case. That's white privilege. I don't have to worry that when he asks for my license, registration, and proof of insurance, and I reach over to my glove box to open it and get my registration out, that he is going to draw that weapon for fear that I may have a weapon in my glove box. That is white privilege. We talked about our bishop. I thought asked a very important and moving question about how we view things like the Black Lives Matter movement. He wondered why, as a church, it is so easy for us to say that Black Lives Matter in Rwanda, but not to say that Black Lives Matter in our own backyard and neighborhoods. These are some tough questions that we have to answer. We also heard about the Reconciling Christ Network. I spent some time at their table talking with them, and how important it was for us to make the change that said publicly, we are a welcoming congregation. We've been a welcoming congregation for many years, but we finally took the step to make it that public statement. And this was important because it says to people who are looking for a church home, you are welcome here. Not just members of the LGBT community, but those who support them, who want to go somewhere where they are not afraid to invite their friends or their relatives, their sons and daughters, to come to worship with them. And so it's important for us to be publicly listed in that network, because in that way, we break down barriers to abundant life. We also talked about immigration justice and the fact that so many people who have been told, who are undocumented, who have been told on the one hand that they are safe from deportation, are suddenly finding themselves on their way back to the country where they were born. And that we need to be able to hear a unified message so that people know where they stand. Young people, dreamers they call them, the children who were brought here so young that they don't remember a home anywhere else. Some of whom don't even know they're undocumented until they go to apply for college or for a job and realize they don't have the right papers to do that. So we talked about a lot of difficult things. We didn't come to any sweeping, overwhelming conclusions as to how we would deal with that. But we talked about a lot of issues that are important to our church and about which we need to continue to have conversation at the local and synod level. So, how do you define abundant life? And how do you see the abundant life or lack of abundant life of the people in your community? How do you step forward to help them have abundant life? This morning, Joyce asked me about my safety pins. I've got one on my shirt as well. It's been a while since I've talked about my safety pin. But it means that I will step forward when I see someone being robbed of their abundant life. Someone whose language of English is not good, who's being ridiculed for that. Or a Muslim woman wearing a hijab, who's being harassed for her faith. That I will step forward and help them live life more abundantly. So, this, for me, is abundant life. And it is the way to abundant life. We, as a community, have the power to live out this promised life through Jesus Christ. And we have the power to share it with others who, in their lives, experience so many barriers to abundant life. We just need to decide what we will do. Amen.